A very good evening and welcome to Point Blank. Tonight we look at a very important issue, that is the state of prisons in Ghana. The Ghana Prisons Service is a component of the criminal justice system with a mandate to keep prisoners in safe custody until they finish serving their time in jail. The core functions of the Ghana Prison Service are spelled out in Section 1 of NRCD 46/1972 are as follows: safe custody of prisoners, welfare of prisoners, reformation and rehabilitation of prisoners. In recent times, the Ghana Prison Service have been facing a number of challenges affecting the operations of the service. They include overcrowding. The problem has been exacerbated by the rather large number of prisoners awaiting trial and those on remand. Others are inadequate budgetary allocation to run the prisons, lack of skills training for prisoners before they are released, and few job opportunities for ex-convicts. On Point Blank tonight, we will discuss the challenges facing the Ghana Prison Service. And we have as our guest D.S.P Vitalis Aiyeh. I don't know if I've mentioned the name correctly.
Yeah, Aiyeh.
And then Aiyeh, and then he is the Deputy Public Relations Officer of the service. This is your first time on Point Blank?
Yes.
Right. And then to help me analyze the issues are two friends from the Inky fraternity, Jeffrey de Graft Johnson of the Enquirer newspaper and Apia Kwe of Live FM. Gentlemen, you are welcome.
Thank you.
DSP, before we begin, let me ask you a personal one that seems to have had some sort of effect on me. I happened to be at some prisons about 4 days ago, and an inmate, I didn't go there as an inmate anyway, an inmate told me that everybody, you and I, are potential candidates for prison. Yeah, ordinarily, this is not something that demands any semantic or philosophical analysis to, get a meaning. Yeah. But it really had a profound effect. I had never thought about that. You are a prisons officer. Have you ever thought about this statement?
Thank you very much. It's very true. And I've always said that the prisons is like an accident ward. Anybody can be there at any time. It's not meant for specific people. You could be on your way to work driving, and by mistake you hit somebody. If the person dies, you become a potential prisoner. So what the inmate said is very true. A prison, again, is just like a miniature world. We find all manner of people in prison. Some, when they committed offenses. Others, probably they were not coached well. They didn't have a representation. They didn't have a lawyer to defend them well. That is why they are there. So anybody can be there at any time. What the inmate said is very true.
No respecter of persons. Let's look at the core functions of the Ghana Prison Service. That is safe custody of prisoners, welfare of prisoners, reformation and rehabilitation of prisoners. I'm sure there could be more, but then let's restrict the discussion to reformation and rehabilitation of prisoners, because we are well aware of the safe custody and so on. It used to be a non-core function of the Ghana Prison Service. I think something that is most important, correctional, happens to be core. Why the paradigm shift this time? Why is it? Why do you situate it as a core function now?
We realized that in the past, the prisons were just meant for punishment. The world over, people were sent to prisons to be punished. This time around, people are sent to prisons as a punishment. So the next thing to do is to ensure that they get back into society reformed. They get back into society reintegrated very well so that they can live with normal human beings. So there's a paradigm shift from the punitive punishment aspect of prisons to reformation, rehabilitation, and reintegration of inmates back into society so that they can become useful citizens.
Right. Okay.
Well, I just want to find out, PRO, because I just want us to look at the poor condition that exists within, the prison service now.
Yeah.
I know there are so many reports that we've had, and I guess you been in the service for quite some time also know about this this incident or this poor condition. Can you please walk us through some of the factors that leads to some of these conditions?
The conditions in the prison service are, well, if you look at it generally, they are not very poor. They are not too good anyway. Taking us back to history, the prison started way back when our population was just barely 6 million. And the only additions we have had is the Nsawan prison that was built in 1968, and that of Kitikrachi. The newest is Ankafo. So if in 1968 we're close to say 6 million, and today we have exploded in population to about 24 million, and still the same old facilities. And even these are vestiges of the colonial masters. They were not custom-based prisons. They were things meant for, they were castles and forts and horse stables that we have turned into prisons. They are dilapidated. And if supposing a room or a cell were to take 5 inmates, it's now accommodating 15 inmates. So they'll be overstretching on the facilities that are there. Maybe that is what people would term as poor conditions, but we try our best to ensure that those areas are kept clean and the inmates are provided with the needed things to operate with, to work with.
So why are people scared of the prisons?
Good question. If you look at the edifice, it's a 4-walled something with a concertina wire around it, a barbed wire, and a very small gate that you have to bend down to go into. Anybody seeing a place like that and not knowing what happens inside will be scared. That is natural. And again, there were stories about abuses of human beings in the prison. But you enter the prison and realize it's a different thing. In the prison, there are rules and regulations. And I'll tell you on authority that rules are respected more in prisons than they are outside of prisons. Prisoners will tell you that. Because you can't misbehave in prison. If you do, there are consequences. When you get into prison, the regulations, the rules are read to you. You can do this, you cannot do this. People are scared because they don't know what happens. And this is where I'll ask the populace to visit. Prisoner visitation is very important. That can help with a reintegration. People are in there, find time, come sit with them, know what they are facing, and that will help them to come back. Otherwise, many of them come back stigmatized and are rejected by their own people. And that's the difficulty. So I'm urging the public and all those who have people in prison, your relatives, you have the right to come and visit them. And the prison service will provide you with the facilities to visit. If you just come and you don't have things that are prohibited in the prisons, you are given the chance. You only need to know when and where to visit. It's not every day. We have working hours. Yes.
D.S.P, we come to the issue of the demystification of the prison service. But you made a point that the rules and regulations in the prisons are religiously obeyed more than those outside. But so why is it that when inmates, some of them, go out, they unleash terror on society after, religiously following the rules and regulations that are supposed to make them better human beings? The opposite is the case. What could be the problem?
I think I just spoke about reintegration and stigmatization. Many of these inmates that come out are not welcomed. They are not. So they try to get back into prison where they are welcomed. They have their peers there. Inmates, or prisoners for that matter, goes home and then he's not received by anybody. I mean, that man just came from prison. We won't accept him.
So what are we doing to demystify the perception of the prisons as an area of condemnation? Is it that you are not doing enough as a service, the form of advocacy and so on and so forth, to let the public know that this is what the place is about? Are you doing enough?
We are. Our enough will not be enough because we are budgetary constrained. But if you can remember, we used to have what we call the Prison Week celebrations. And with the Prison Week celebrations, we open the prisons up for people to come and see what we really do. We exhibit our products in the markets and the areas that we have our exhibition centers, so that people will know that inside the prison, The people they're not rotten. They're doing work that is coming to help society. We engage them in agric, we engage them in vocational skills. Some come out and are better off than when they went in. That is true. So if we talk about people coming out to be harder than before, probably we go back to where we all have a role to play. We should try to welcome them. We should encourage them. They're still part of us. If we don't give them that welcome, it means that they'll find something to do. Because if a man comes out of prison and he's accepted, given a place to sleep, and maybe some encouragement, he will stay put. But if he's rejected, what happens? He goes back into the streets.
Yeah, Messiah, but don't you think that some of these prisoners comes out more hardened, as the host said, because of the abuses and the abuse of their fundamental rights in these prisons? Of course, we've had several reports and incidents where the rights of inmates are abused, and for that matter, when they come out, they feel liberated and they feel that they have to revenge.
Perhaps to add something to what my brother just said, another school of thought also believe that at times the relationship between the prison officers and the inmates have not been the best. And of course they say it humorously, that the prison officers have also become prisoners. So they at times visit their worries on the inmates. Could you use this platform to tell us the relationship between the officers and the inmates?
There is a cordial relationship between inmates and officers. If you look at our core mandate, the safe custody and welfare of the inmates is the job we do. And the prisoners are aware that we are like father figures to them.
Okay.
If they can't sleep in the night, we are the ones that carry them. If they are sick, if they have to go to court, we are the ones that do it for them. That relationship is there. And maybe coming out to be hardened, it could be getting coached by somebody. That's why we're talking about classification of our inmates. Because of the congestion we have, it is possible you can have somebody who just stole a fowl or plantain dealing with an armed robber. What probably is said, what coaching is given in the night, we are not there, we might not hear. That could be a factor. But abuses, again, we don't have abuses in our prisons. We implement the rules and regulations. That we will do, because it's a security setup, and you can't just have your way. If you break the regulations, and we don't take your, like, inflicting pain on you, beating you, no. We have the one-tier remission system. If you misconduct yourself, your remission can be taken away. Nobody will touch you. If you misconduct yourself, we could deny you your visit from a relative. If you misconduct yourself, we have the power not to give you, prisoners can take food from outside to supplement what they have. Those are the privileges they have. We can take those away, but abusing them, no. They can always have stories to tell when they come out. The most often, when you follow through, those stories are just fabrications. A great deal of them are not real.
All right. You did say that the focus of the service has kind of moved from punitive to correctional. So would it then be out of place to suggest that the name should be Ghana Correctional Service instead of the Ghana Prison Service, which seems rather very judgmental?
That is true. And administration is working on changing the name as we go along the side of a shift from punitive to corrections. And I think as we talk here, there's a bill in Parliament. If you receive the accent and it's blessed, the name will change from Ghana Prison Service to Ghana Correctional Service.
Okay.
That I'm aware of.
Right, D.S.P, talking of conditions in prisons. There's yet another perception. You know, the prisons have become a word of perceptions. Do you have special places for political prisoners? Do you have political prisoners in the first place? Are they treated differently from the other inmates?
No, we don't have special places for political prisoners. The prison architecture was built for political prisoners. But it's not for political prisoners today. I'm not aware of any political prisoner in our system as we talk. We can have places for prisoners. For example, we can have an infirmary, that is like a clinic for inmates who are not feeling well, who have medications to take. They could be separated from the mainstream inmate body and brought there. And if we have a nurse who is a convict or who has been groomed, he takes or he oversees their welfare. If they are not feeling well in the night, he can get up and take care of them. That we have. But a place meant for politicians or special people or rich people, we don't have.
So you don't have situations where, for instance, the big man in there, he may be a big man, Ghanaians know him, everybody knows his clout, and then 4 p.m., this is a hypothetical case I'm giving, they're supposed to be indoors, and then he says, no, I'm feeling hot, let me stay outside, and then that sort of fear will prevent you from obeying the rules and regulations. Are you not confronted with such situations?
No, we are very professional when it comes to prison duties. And there's no big man in quotes in prisons. When you come to prisons, the rules are set. We are all going to bed at 6, you are in. We are coming out at 6 in the morning, you are out. There's nothing like, I'm a big man, I should stay and go at 6:30 or come out earlier than 6:30, the others. We don't have that. However, we have what we call the star class, who sometimes can help in managing the system. They could be allowed. And it's not everybody who can become a star class. You can't come as a big man today and become a star class. You should be serving a very long sentence, and after good conduct and steady industry, that position is given you. It's just like in the secondary school where you can have a prefect to see to correcting or putting people in order. We can't be everywhere at all the times. So sometimes that's what happens. But there is no special place for anybody who is a political prisoner or a big man in the prison system. No.
Let's look at the health condition of inmates in there. How can you walk us through how are they taken care of? Because most of these rooms are congested, and if an inmate within about 15 or 16 counterparts in a room, let's say have a tuberculosis, affects the rest. How does your service, how is the service, ensuring that such a place, such a condition in that place is kept under bear?
I just mentioned that we can have a place, we have clinics or infirmaries attached to all the prisons. And we have, in some prisons, segregation blocks for inmates who are infected, maybe skin diseases, you just mentioned tuberculosis. We don't allow them to stay with the other prisoners.
No, so they are separated, all right.
We separate them. And talking about if they are not well, that is why we make sure somebody is with them throughout the night. If they are not well and it requires that they are moved, if they are in danger in the night, then that is done. But it's very rare.
Are there transportation, ambulances in your prison services departments that can transport inmates to the various hospitals so easily?
No, not so easily. We don't have ambulances that can just pick an inmate and rush into the hospital. Logistically, we are constrained.
Okay.
We are constrained. But we try our best to bring them to hospital when they report sick. And we see that we cannot handle those situations in the prison. We take them to government hospitals where they are treated. And government pays the bill. Of course, the prison service pays the bill, but that's through government. So any prisoner who is sick is carried to hospital. That is, if we cannot manage you in the prison, we have first aid drugs we give to prisoners. If that cannot help you, then it is our duty. Now, how we are getting to the hospital, that is another challenge. Sometimes it's difficult.
Right. We will come to the issue of resources, but let's look at one sensitive issue, conjugal rights. It must be very difficult. You are put in the sentence, let's say, for 30 years. You have a wife. You married about 6 months ago. You found yourself in there. And then I hope you understand. It's difficult. So what do you have a situation where wives come in and then you excuse the inmate and the wife? There should be procreation. You see, people have asked this question over and over again. Is this not an abuse of their rights, no matter what they have done that have sent them to prison? Maybe
if it is the law we are working with, and that is the law. That is the law. If that bill is passed, and that bill they say allow them to have their conjugal rights, like we have in other countries, why not? We'll give them that chance. But the statute we have that operate today says conjugal rights are not permissible. Alcohol, not permissible. Cigarette, not permissible. I have seen inmates taking cigarette in prison. They buy for them. It is normal. You go to the commissary and buy. In Ghana, it is not. The colonial master handed down to us some laws, some rules, and some regulations. We are still operating with them. We haven't changed them.
Okay.
And there are laws. We cannot change them until they are changed from the top.
So do you have instances of homosexuality in prisons?
Yeah.
Not that I'm aware of. It can happen. It could be a force. The inmates themselves, I just told you that inmates, we have, the prison is like a miniature world. You are in a cell with a pastor, with a doctor. He will not allow you to penetrate anybody in the night. They don't allow it. They don't permit it. If you are caught trying it, before even the officers can get to you, they themselves will visit mayhem on you. It is something that is not permitted in the prisons. The prisoners themselves think it's bad luck. They don't accept it. They don't want it to happen. So I can't see it. You and I cannot see it. I mean, if we're 20 in a room, we can't watch you do that in front of us when we don't believe in it.
Maybe in the night when everyone is asleep.
That is in the night. If in the night you are how many in the room, you can't all be asleep. With that kind of thing, you can't all be asleep. I just cited a scenario where if you talk about, congestion of the prisons, you have like 10 people taking the space of 5 people. It's not possible.
Right. Let's look at another issue, the use of mobile phones. Last week when I tried entering in some medium security, I was told to put my phone away.
Yeah.
But I also realized that officers themselves are not allowed to use mobile phones. But I thought that was going to aid you in your activities. Why are officers not allowed to use mobile phones in prisons?
Officers are not allowed to use mobile phones. We have some selected officers have what are called the GOTA, which you can take into the prison. Mobile phone itself, no. Anything can happen. You can be compromised. It can be snatched from you and used. We don't permit it. Anybody who is coming to the prison, it doesn't matter your status, you are asked to leave your mobile phone at the entrance of the prisons before you go in. If you smuggle it in and you are caught, you face the consequences. Officers are not permitted to use mobile phones.
Is that part of your law? Is that part of your directive? Because this is news to me.
Yes. But we know what mobile phones can do. It can be used for anything. You can sit and communicate to somebody in America. So it falls in the hands of these inmates. What happens? So for us not to let them have the urge to want to use mobile phones, prison officers are not allowed to use mobile phones in the prisons.
Right. So are there any plans to expand or improve facilities in the prisons?
Yeah, plans are underway. As we talk now, I think the Ankafu Phase 1 is completed, which was commissioned by the late President, His Excellency, Vice President Atta Mills. The phase 2 is ongoing. And there are hints that we might be having schools built in Ankafu, in Sawan Mill, Kumasi, and Wa to take care of our youngsters who will be in school. So it means that they will be classified. So there will be a way of expanding and decongesting the prisons.
Yeah. Before we look at the issue of resources, could you explain this minimum, maximum, security? What does it mean?
Maximum security, that is the first we have ever had at Ankafu. It's for high-risk prisoners. They're not supposed to go out. They're supposed to be confined, like the Colombians and the Atais, who we all know what they did. And the minimum was in Sawam. It goes with a certain capacity. Still high risk, but maybe lifers and condemned prisoners. Before we have central prisons, those you find in all the regional capitals that can take care of at least some security risk prisoners. Then we have the local and camp prisons that take care of low risk prisoners, who are basically into farm activities for rehabilitation purposes and producing crops for the system.
Right.
Yeah, before that, the question, the answer with regards to the use of officers being not allowed to use, a mobile phone. Does that mean that your service don't promote the use of ICT in your service? Of course, mobile phone is part of it, and then after this I'll come to the computers and the other gadgets.
Yes, we do. We permit the use of ICT in the prisons.
How?
That is regulated. It is regulated. If it is an ICT room, the prisoners come in. Of course, you can configure it. You know what they should be doing. We have experts who handle them. But a mobile phone, if it is in there, what you are saying to somebody outside, I will not hear. But we can block anything you can do on the computer, even if it's connected to the internet. But for now, we want them to have the basics on ICT, which we are putting up throughout the country.
Talking about basics, what do you refer to as a basic? Because there's so many. I mean, we have social media, which is now a basic. A component of ICT education, and then the other Windows and then softwares. I mean, what are you referring to?
Yeah,
if you talk
Windows,
about
just how to use a computer. How to use a computer, how to check your mail, how to do a lot of things. But there are restrictions. We put restriction on it so they don't go to some sites that can arouse you.
So they don't use Facebook, they don't use Twitter, they don't use all the other social media sites?
No.
What about the officers?
Officers don't. If you want to, that should be outside.
Right.
DSP, you've complained of lack of resources. When I visited, I saw huge acres of palm, how do you call it? Palm, plantations and piggery, rearing of rabbits, and what have you. You have an acting director general, a woman. Yeah. What does she bring on board? How is she going to harness all the resources to ensure that you don't have to necessarily go out begging?
The acting director general, Madame Matilda Bafo-Ewua, is a seasoned prison officer with 30 plus years in the service and has walked through the ranks to where she is today. She has worked in almost all capacities, at a point being the 2IC for almost maybe a decade. She has an in-depth knowledge into prison systems, well-versed, well-experienced, and she has passion for human rights. She has passion for the issues of people, especially prisoners, female prisoners, and the officers in general.